There's this statement going around professional circles, and it feels less like a piece of friendly advice and more like a final warning. It's simple and it's pretty stark. If you don't learn AI now, you are absolutely going to regret it.
Right. But here's the thing, and this is the part I think almost everyone is missing. This isn't just about adding another line item to your resume or getting a new certificate for your profile. This is not about learning a new skill.
It's about something way more critical. Something that once it's gone, you just can't get back. This is about timing. And believe me, the clock is already ticking. Okay, so let's just dive right in. We're talking about this quiet but absolutely massive shift that's happening across the professional world. A recent piece from The Effective Professional really put it all into perspective for us.
It really did. It didn't frame this as just some new trend, but as a critical moment in time. The whole argument is that waiting around to figure out AI, well, that's just not an option anymore. They're calling it the AI advantage gap.
And it all kicks off with a pretty uncomfortable question. The article argues that a divide is already opening up, and it's quietly creating two completely different classes of professionals. And what's kind of scary is that this is happening right now, while we're all just going about our regular work days. The group you end up in, maybe without even realizing it, could literally set the entire path for your career from this day forward. So let's break them down. On one side, you got the observer. These are the people on the sidelines, right? They're watching, they're reading articles, they're trying to wrap their head around what AI even is. But then you have the integrator. They're already in the game, actively using AI every day as a partner to help them think and get work done.
Okay, but at first listen, that sounds kind of subtle. It just sounds like the difference between knowing about a thing and actually doing it. I mean, a lot of us feel like we're staying on top of it just by reading the news, right? Is that really not enough?
And that's what's so deceptive about this whole thing. You're right, the initial edge an integrator has is tiny, almost invisible. We're talking about really small gains. So maybe their report is done just a little bit faster, or their analysis has a slightly sharper insight. Maybe they make a decision that's just marginally better. So if you were working next to an integrator, you'd probably just think they were having a really productive day or something. But, and I'm guessing this is the whole point, these aren't just one-off wins. Exactly. This is where the whole idea pivots. AI isn't just another tool you add to your toolbox. It's a multiplier. It doesn't just add to your abilities. It actually multiplies your entire capacity. Oh, that's a great way to put it. It's like compound interest, but for your brain. So every single time an integrator uses AI, they're not just finishing one more task. They're actually getting smarter. They're building an intuition for asking better questions. And those tiny daily wins start to stack up. And pretty soon, it's not just about improvement. It's about pure acceleration.
Okay, I get that in theory, but it brings up the thought that I know is on everyone's mind. This sounds neat, but I am totally swamped right now. Can I just, take a course next quarter and catch up then? It just feels like another skill you can learn when you have the time.
And that right there is the dangerous assumption the article warns us about. This whole idea that you can just catch up completely misses the compounding effect we were just talking about. So look at this. In the first month, the integrator has what, a 5% edge? In the real world, that's nothing. You literally can't tell who's who. The observer's doing just fine. But let's fast forward 2 years. After that tiny 5% advantage has compounded every single day through thousands of little interactions and decisions made with an AI partner, it's not 5% anymore. It's 150%. Wow, okay, seeing it like that is pretty stark. The integrator isn't just a little quicker anymore. They're operating at 2.5 times the capacity of the observer. What started as this tiny little gap is now a full-blown chasm. Yeah, seeing that visually is genuinely a bit shocking. That's not a gap you can just close with a weekend workshop. What you're describing is a fundamental, almost impossible difference in what someone is capable of doing.
Precisely. And this timeline shows why. The early adopters, the integrators, are building intuition. That's the magic word here. It's a feel for how to work with this technology that you can only get by doing it. So the late adopters, they're not just behind on some software skills, they're trying to build that intuition from zero, while their coworkers are already using it to operate at a totally different level. They're basically trying to catch a speeding train that's just getting faster.
And this really is the most critical point to understand. The chasm that opens up between these two groups isn't about who knows how to use which tool. It's about a fundamental difference in the actual speed and quality of their thinking. One person is essentially thinking with a supercomputer, and the other person isn't. The game becomes completely unequal. All right, this thinking gap is a really powerful idea, but let's bring it back down to earth. what does this actually look like in somebody's career day to day? I mean, are we saying all the observers are going to get replaced by AI next month? No, and that's a super important distinction. The article is really clear that the immediate danger isn't that you'll be replaced by some algorithm. The real risk, the one that's happening right now, is much quieter and maybe even more dangerous. It's becoming, over time, irrelevant compared to your peers. You don't get replaced by AI, you just get consistently outperformed by the colleague who's using it. You become comparatively irrelevant. And this table just lays out those two diverging paths so clearly. It's kind of sobering. You see the integrator on this obvious upward spiral, right? They produce more, so they get noticed, which gets them better projects, which leads to more strategic work. You can feel the momentum.
And then look at the observers column. They might be working just as hard, heck, probably harder, but their path is flat. It's all about maintenance and just trying to keep up. They're stagnating. And that phrase right there is key. High effort but low leverage. They are running as fast as they can just to stay in the same place, while their peers are just taking off.
Which brings us right to the central argument of this whole thing, and it's captured perfectly in this quote. The system doesn't reward effort, it rewards leverage. Our careers, our entire professional world is built on this one principle, whether we like it or not. And right now, AI is the single biggest opportunity for leverage that a professional has, maybe in history. The article argues that ignoring it is like being a construction worker who insists on using a shovel when there's an excavator sitting right there ready to go. You can be the hardest worker on the site, but you're still going to be outproduced. It's that simple. This is all a lot to take in. So what's the move? Where do we even start? Is the answer just to go out and learn a dozen AI tools? Do we just sign up for every course we can find and hope something sticks? Well, that's the surface level answer, and it kind of misses the deeper point. The change that's actually required is much more fundamental. It's not about memorizing tools. It's about shifting your mindset. The very first shift is going from a default of doing things manually to a new default of thinking with AI. So before you even start writing a document or analyzing some data, the new first question has to be, okay, how can AI help me tackle this? The second shift is just as big. I mean, for our entire careers, we've been taught to be the ones who solve the problem, right? To break it down into little steps and just execute.
Exactly. But the new mindset is to become the architect, not just the builder. Your most valuable skill is no longer just doing the steps, but being able to frame the problem so well that the AI can solve it for you. It's the difference between being a worker on the assembly line and being the engineer who designed the whole factory.
And this last shift really ties it all together. It's a conscious decision to move away from the I just need to work harder mindset to a how can I apply more leverage here mindset. It's about finally admitting that your time and energy are limited, but your ability to create leverage, especially with these tools, is pretty much infinite. It goes right back to that quote we just saw. The system rewards leverage, not just raw effort. This is how you create it.
So if you put all that together, the real advantage, the edge that's actually going to last, isn't just knowing about AI. It's about actively using it for these three things. Using it to extend how you think, using it to amplify what you produce, and using it to accelerate how you make decisions. That's the whole ballgame right there. And that brings us all the way back to that sense of urgency from the very beginning. Because of that compounding effect, and because the gap that's opening up is about your core ability to think, this isn't a race you can just sit out and join later. The source ends with a pretty chilling warning. If you put off making this mindset shift, the risk isn't just that you'll fall behind. The risk is that you will be outpaced for good. That's a powerful and honestly a pretty heavy thought to end on. But this entire conversation just opens up another even deeper question. What if you do everything we just talked about? You make the mindset shift, you become an integrator, but it's still not enough.
The source material actually hints at another layer to this, a second trap that a lot of early adopters are falling into, which brings us to our final question for next time. Why even learning AI may not save you? We're going to unpack that in our next explainer, so make sure you subscribe because you're not going to want to miss it.